Hey there, my wedding planning friends, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time visiting my channel, thank you so much for clicking on my picture. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe to get weekly videos on wedding tips and advice. It's officially a new year and a new decade, which is kind of crazy to think about. And with a new year comes all new wedding trends. So I've been researching the top trends that we can expect to see for 2020 weddings, and today I'm going to share them with you. We are expecting to see a lot of green weddings. Now this could mean greenery, as that's been a pretty popular form of florals for the last couple of years now. That's not going to go anywhere. We still expect to see a lot of greenery when it comes to floral decoration, but we also expect to see a lot of green weddings in the sense of sustainability. So a lot more couples are opting to upcycle and find ways to use recycled products, reuse products, and this also goes into reusing family heirlooms and also using old family diamonds and gems in engagement rings, which I think is super cool. I love when I have couples that their engagement ring or their wedding ring is either from like the actual ring from their family, or they've taken the stone from a family member's ring and created a ring of their own. I think that's so cool. We're also going to see an increase in micro weddings, which I love the sound of this. So if you're unfamiliar with the term micro wedding, it's basically, how it sounds, a much smaller scale wedding. Now this doesn't mean necessarily like going to the courthouse or just having like a small wedding. The budget for micro weddings is still pretty high, but you have a higher budget per guest. So you're not trying to spread $10,000 across 150 people. You might have 40 guests or less with a micro wedding and still able to bring that really elegant, sophisticated vibe to your wedding if that's something that you're into. Micro weddings, I just love the idea of a micro wedding because when you're able to really focus on that small group of people that you have at your wedding and put your energy towards creating a really fun experience for just you and that group of people, I feel like it is so much less stressful for the bride and the groom. Because with the larger weddings, every couple tries to please every single person in attendance, and in reality, that's pretty difficult to do, if not impossible. So at least with a smaller group of people, you probably know them a lot better, you know what they're into, you know what they like, you know what their needs are, dietary restrictions, that sort of thing, and it's just a lot easier to create an event that's going to really make everyone super comfortable and have an enjoyable experience. So this next trend is super interesting, and it's probably location specific. I don't expect this to be super popular in Montana, as we tend to be a little bit behind the times anyways, but mysticism is actually something that has been a rising trend in weddings. So what I mean by this is incorporating more crystals. Maybe that's like in your decorations on your table settings. Maybe you're wearing crystals or your bridesmaids are wearing crystals. And saging is actually something, like a huge ritual that people are doing in weddings, like actually saging, purifying the environment and the air of all negative energy, if you're unfamiliar with what saging is. And also some people are having more interactive mysticism elements to their wedding, like palm readers or tarot card readers at the actual reception as sort of an interactive fun activity that guests can participate in. So super cool, but if it's not your thing, don't incorporate it into your wedding just because it's something that's trending. And that goes for any of these trends. Obviously there's things that are going to be popular during certain years, and sure, if you vibe with it, then definitely incorporate it into your wedding. But if it's not something that really speaks true to who you are or who you are as a couple, just because it's trendy doesn't mean you have to incorporate it into your wedding. Let's talk about attire and accessories now. So in 2020, we will probably see the use of hair pieces a lot more. That hasn't been super popular in the last couple of years, as the whole flower crown and flowers in the hair, boho vibes has kind of overtaken the wedding scene the last couple of years. But in 2020, we expect to see more hair pieces such as barrettes, big hair clips, and whether this is paired with a veil or not. We don't anticipate veils to be going anywhere too soon, but on the topic of veils, we can talk about that. The concept behind veils for 2020 weddings is really truly go big or go home. We are seeing brides opt to either go really extravagant with their veil and have something really, really long, cathedral length, really statement veils. And this probably comes from the inspiration that we've seen in the last year of Priyanka and Nick Jonas's wedding, as well as Hailey Baldwin and Justin Bieber. I don't know if you saw their photos, but Hailey Baldwin had the end of her veil, it was a very long veil, and at the very edge of it, it said, "Till death do us part," which is something I've never seen. But I think that has sort of inspired brides to have more of a statement piece when it comes to their veil. And if not, then we're seeing veils go away completely. So it's either a really extravagant long veil or no veil at all. Speaking of extravagant, we expect wedding dresses to be a little bit more extravagant this year. The sleek and sexy, very simple, elegant gown that was popular the last couple of years is starting to go by the wayside a little bit. I don't expect them to leave completely, because I know, especially when brides are picking up their wedding dresses last year for this year, that was still a very popular theme with wedding dresses, especially in Montana, so we'll probably be a little bit behind. But we're expecting to see a rise in the ball gown and in dresses that are much more embellished, really beaded, really extra wedding dresses for 2020. All right, how about the fun stuff? Let's talk some decor trends. So if you haven't heard yet, classic blue is the Pantone color of the year, whereas last year was coral. However, I feel like last year, at least for me and my clients, made more sense to be a year of classic blue than coral, because I saw that a lot more last year than I did coral. So I'm excited that this year I will be seeing a lot more classic blue. I think that classic blue is such a nice, fresh color where it doesn't feel like you have to find that right shade, or you're forcing color into your bouquets or your table arrangements that aren't like a natural color. I think that's such a natural, fresh, and like sophisticated color. So color in general is going to be huge in 2020. We're going to see a lot more bold uses of color, whereas in the last few years we've seen a lot of those earthy tones, really neutral colors, pastel palettes, that sort of thing. And while they're beautiful, I'm excited to see some pops of more bold and bright colors, whether that's in your bridesmaids dresses or on your tables. You can incorporate little pops of color pretty much throughout your entire wedding. I also anticipate seeing a lot of 90s influence. It's no secret the 90s have been making their way back into fashion trends, and I expect to see this transfer over into weddings a little bit, probably nothing crazy. I think the trend of more hair pieces kind of comes from some 90s influence. Also seeing more like holographic and iridescent styles in the stationery is something that we expect to see in 2020, and that comes from some 90s influence for sure. Also, statement wedding decor in general is going to be huge in 2020. So what this means is couples will choose like one element of their wedding to really hone in on and make extravagant to an extent, rather than trying to make your budget stretch across all of these different elements of your wedding. So making sure all of your flowers are really pretty, making sure your head tables dressed to the nines, all of your table setups, centerpieces, actual flatware, glassware, and all that stuff on the tables, and spending tons and tons of money to try and stretch this across your whole design, where just focusing on one or two elements of your wedding, maybe this is your head table alone, or if you have a photo booth or like a photo wall, really decking that out so that your guests are taking pictures in front of it. And that's really where a lot of the documentation of your wedding is going to be, is where your guests are. So it makes sense to really dress up these areas if you're going to spend money on one thing, rather than trying to stretch it across multiple aspects of your wedding. We will also see more unique escort cards. So escort cards are basically what displays a seating chart if you have an assigned seating chart for individual seats. So it's, in its most simple form, it's a little table tent with your guest's name on it. And in 2020, we expect to see a lot more creative displays of this. So maybe it's, using a crystal to write someone's name on it on their place setting, or using some sort of greenery with calligraphy on it, that sort of thing. Couples are really getting creative with the display of these escort cards, and I can't wait to see what more people come up with. Unique table setups in general are going to be really popular in 2020, and what I mean by this is straying away from just the basic rectangle and round table setups, layouts for your reception, and also for your ceremony. But for the reception specifically, we're seeing more kind of that snaking display of tables, really getting creative with how you're setting up your tables. The sky is the limit for 2020 table setups. This goes for ceremony as well. We're seeing a lot more round setups, so like everything comes into an arch where the bride and groom are at the front, and then all the chairs are kind of in a circle around them, or seeing something more asymmetrical, or all the way around. I've seen ones that are all in the circle and the bride and groom are getting married right in the middle, which is really cool. And it depends on your location whether you can pull that off or not, but that's something that we'll see more of in 2020. I also anticipate to see more sweetheart tables set up at the reception. So a sweetheart table is just where the bride and groom sit at a table by themselves, rather than a full-on head party or a head table with the whole wedding party, all the bridesmaids and groomsmen all together at one table. Many couples are also choosing to do more of a communal head table style. So basically this just means having your normal head table with all of your whole bridal party, but also allowing the bridal party's significant others to sit at the head table with them. And I think this is really nice because I think the average age that couples are getting married has gotten higher in the last couple of years, and typically the wedding party, a lot of the members are already partnered with long-time significant others or engaged or married themselves, and it's always nice to be able to sit with your significant other at a wedding and not be the one that's sitting at a random table where you don't know anybody, because the one person you do know has to sit at the head table and you don't really get to interact with them. I think that's all super awkward, and I love when couples are able to incorporate the significant others into the head party or just not have a head table at all. We anticipate seeing some differences with florals in the 2020 wedding season, and straying away a little bit more from the classic palette that we've seen the last couple of years, and lots of greenery, light colors. As we mentioned before, bold colors are going to be very popular in 2020, and this will obviously transcend into the wedding florals, wedding bridal bouquet, and bridesmaids arrangement, centerpieces, all of that. We also anticipate seeing some spray painted stems, so this could be a good way to incorporate that bright color if you don't want to use the actual flower. Like, you could still have a pretty muted floral bouquet, and then we are seeing some spray painted greenery, so having like a leaf that's neon pink or metallic or frosted pastels, those sorts of things, to really add different texture and style and really make a unique arrangement for your wedding. Dried flowers are also becoming more and more popular, and I love this because not only does it add extra texture into your bouquet, but it also opens up your options as far as what kind of flowers you can incorporate, and you're not just limited to what's in season. So that is a list of the top 2020 wedding trends we expect to see this year. If you do want to see a full list that has a little bit more detail in it, I do have it up on my blog, and I'll link that below if you want to check that out. Thanks so much for watching this video today, and please remember to like and subscribe to get your weekly dose of wedding advice and tips, and we'll see you next week.